afternoon. This is a quick update on my scriptless manga. So it's been like 3 weeks since I decided I was going to start drawing the interior pages. I ran into some snags, of course. It's to be expected. Now, I wouldn't say it was a snag as much as it was kind of stuff that I figured was going to be something I had to work out, as I started drawing this project. And that would be the paper, which was the main one. I figured, I was going to use the manga paper so that I didn't have to worry about scanning it and then making it fit like a certain template and then having to draw the template. So I bought the ruleless plain deleter comic book paper. And the paper is too thin. Not only was it too thin, but when they delivered it, it was like open on one side, and I started to notice the reviews on Amazon that the plastic was opened, which is not a problem, but because I'm so used to drawing on very thick paper, the fact that this paper was kind of thin, and I have a certain look I go for when I ink, which is very matte. The spots that I have a ton of ink on, I want it to look kind of matte or very dark. So when I scan it, it looks like it's all uniform and it's all one consistent, I guess you'd say translucency or opacity. So that was a lot more work on the deleter paper. And so I also bought the ones with the rulers. Says the pink one's it's just plain, and then the blue one is ruled. So I didn't think it worked out for me for the look I was trying to go for, because I started to draw I started to draw pages before I got the paper in because I didn't want to wait. And I actually liked how it turned out when it was on just bristle board, even the recycled bristle board, which was what I ended up ordering to do the whole book. So I got like 200 pages worth of the recycled bristle from Canson. And so far, so good, Now let's talk about the speed at which I am drawing. I don't know if it's just because I'm still trying to get used to drawing this book, and script aside, because even when I'm not drawing, I'm just ruminating the ideas for the script in my head. So it's not so bad to not have it all written down. However, because I have other projects that I have to finish up and that I'm drawing, so I'm kind of slowly getting my schedule cleared off just to get this book going. I've had a lot of anxiety, trying to get it done because I have this set goal. And so, like I said before, it's kind of to be expected, but it's one thing to expect it, but then to actually feel it. And finally I said, you know what, I'm putting too much pressure on myself, so maybe not do that. And I've taken it slowly, just a little bit, because I also have to get used to drawing at the scale in which I'm drawing. So the workable area is much smaller than comic books, so I like putting a lot of detail into my panels. It just took a little bit of getting used to, but I actually enjoy drawing at this scale. I feel like it's more conducive to how I draw, because on 11 by 17 sometimes it feels a little overwhelming to fit a certain scale on there. So this was actually better for me. So I think I found my little workaround. I have the recycled paper. I've manually had to draw the lines in, and the reason why I do it this way instead of creating a template in Photoshop, which I did, and then printing it out, I don't like how it looks too much like a comic book page. I want it so that you could frame this at some point and it looks like just a piece of art, art without the lines, which is also very cool. But if I didn't have to, I probably wouldn't want that on there. So I've just had a template where when I light table the template, I just draw the lines. It takes me a minute to do the border, so it's no big deal. Plus, when I erase, after I ink, the lines go away, so it's not like that blue line where you have to remove it when you are in Photoshop. before you send it off to print and to get it colored. And sometimes if you don't do the threshold and the contrast correctly, it's going to show up in the final piece. And, granted, I could be a little bit more careful. If I could take any strategic shortcuts to get this done a certain way and then, less work and it still looks good, I'm going to take those shortcuts. Strategic shortcuts, that is. Not shortcuts because of deadlines, which there's plenty of that too. So yeah, like I said, there's going to be a lot of detail in these pages. So it might look like pretty overwhelming right now, but at the same time, when I start inking, I'll know not to ink certain things and use the light and shadow, and then the half tones that I'll be doing in Procreate and Clip Studio to basically do the shading for me. So the lines of the pencils look like there's tons of textures going on, but really I think I'm going to be okay with that. I guess we'll see. What else? So anytime when I can't draw pages because I'm working on other projects, I've been able to, like, in between my projects, like, work on the concept art and then kind of develop the story a little bit more as I'm waiting to draw on pages. Because the thing with drawing interior pages is I don't like breaking my schedule up if I haven't laid out the page yet or figured out where things are going to go. So it's going to be like in the back of my mind, and that's kind of hard to let go of until I've actually done some work. So I don't like to break my sessions up. Like, I like to go, when I'm penciling a page, one session, maybe two at most, to get my momentum going. So I don't like to break it in half. If I'm not drawing a page, then I like to, do the concept art or the pinup stuff, just so that I have more content than not while I'm working on other projects right now. So that brings us to the dragon. And I don't know where I placed it. Yeah, my office is a huge mess, and I've got drawings, sketches, pages, and scripts like everywhere. So I'll find it someday. No, honestly, I haven't seen that drawing in a few days. Oh, there it is. Ta-da! So this is the first iteration of the dragon. I'm definitely going to have to do a couple more things to him, but I don't want to spoil the story. Needless to say, there's going to be a lot of creatures and dragons to design and draw for the whole entire series. So I am super excited. I've been watching tons of medieval and fantasy documentaries and just like going down the rabbit hole of that. And then on top of that, I've been watching tons of like fantasy and medieval movies and TV shows. And it's something that I forgot that I was completely obsessed over. It's not that hard to do that kind of research, So I think maybe that's why I decided to work on this project now, because I knew that it was something that I could get out there fast and then be happy with it, because I get to draw dragons. And yeah. So let's talk about the designs for the dragon and maybe the characters. So I obviously wanted a dragon that was like something you'd see in most of the fantasy, the games, the novels, just everything. But I didn't want it to be exactly like all the stuff I saw out there. So you only had so many elements you could play around with before it became either too far off in one direction and not close enough to the dragons that, the typical fantasy dragon. I mean, I guess the dragon is fantasy, right? So the typical dragon, or it was too much in the other direction where it, its own thing. So he's got 4 wings, essentially, 2 of the main ones and then 2 smaller ones in towards the back next to his hind legs to help with the to maneuver and to so he has those wings, and then his horns are, a lot of the dragons, they protrude backwards, but this one I made his horns go forward, and his tail's got bony scales, a lot like stegosaurus, to help with in any kind of combat. So those are the two main elements that I felt differentiated this dragon from, you know, some other ones. However, you know, since the manga is in black and white, I don't really get to color him. So the only kind of patterning that I could put on him to make him stand out without the color would have to be any kind of streaks and stripes, which I haven't like really came up with yet. And since I didn't want to spoil the story, I can't tell you why I'm not going to focus on that, but maybe I will add some of those elements to his design. So for the time being, he's got 4 wings. His horns look the way they do, and that's gonna be my guy for now. And then we have the sky serpent, which I'm still designing, but more or less it's gonna look. I just want it to look really scary. It's going to have wings that come out. That's a lot like, you could say, dinosaur or lizard-like wings, or bats with the pattern, you know, instead of, it's not very scaly. Instead of, like, I don't know, it looks like butterfly wings from far away, or dragon wings, but it's kind of in between that. It's not very bony. So I'm still trying to figure that out as well. But that's kind of why I'm doing this piece right now, is to figure out what I'm trying to do with the designs. And since I've roughly drawn them on the pages, I haven't really quite inked some aspects of it yet. I could still change it, and you know, I'm thinking that I probably won't really start inking the pages until I lock down some of the major design elements. So that is going to take me up to about page, as it stands right now, about page 7. So after I finish laying out most of it, I'm probably going to go back and start inking it. And I will definitely have a video of that. Now, we could talk about the character designs in the comic, and that I also use the same philosophy with the character designs, which means they're similar to a lot of the fantasy designs out there, but they're not so similar where you can't tell them apart from a different character, you know? So the shape design, the color design, and their mannerisms should be unique to the characters that I've basically created in this book. So that should be pretty much what I have with that. And then of course, like the maidens and a lot of the leading female characters, I've already done their basic design in the prints that I did for my official website, you know, the dragon mistresses and the warriors that I have. They already have like a basic design to the way that they look. So I haven't really had to worry too much about designing them from scratch. And, you know, since this is like breakneck speed manga creation, I'm trying not to overthink certain things. I mean, I've honestly have had problems already trying to come up with stuff and then overthinking it and then not going forward. And I'm like, okay, you know what? The whole point of doing it as fast as we are doing it right now is to bypass some of the things that don't need a lot of time to be spent on them, or they could be dealt with later on during the process. So I'm not overthinking it. And I think that sometimes the best designs are the ones you don't overthink, but it's intuitive, and you have to kind of trust in the amount of experience you've already had with the kind of work you've been doing. In my case, that's about 10 years. So I don't think I should spend too much time on certain things and overthinking it, because that's very easy to do. So yeah, that's my approach to designing these characters as it stands right now. Anyhow, well, I will update you more on my progress and any more bumps in the road that I find, but definitely the paper was a big one, and then trying to find the time in between my projects, my client projects that I'm working on, to get this done before the end of April. So wish me luck, and I will see you guys soon. I forgot to go over the brush pens. I did a quick review of it a year ago, I think, but I haven't used them since because I love my brushes. So the reason why I use these was because I wasn't home, and on top of that, like, since it was just like a quick sketch and concept art, I didn't want to have to pull out my, my whole setup with the ink and everything. So this was the pens that I used for this dragon piece right here. And they are amazing. You can put ink in it. Granted, I don't know if I mentioned this in the review video of these. You have to add some water into the ink well, or else it dries up and it doesn't come out, and it's just doesn't look as good, and it's just more work than it's worth. So I had to add quite a bit of water to get these to flow the way that I wanted it to. And I basically put in the same ink that I'd normally use for my inking, so it's pretty consistent. However, I've been experimenting, and one of these I had to fill in the actual ink that came with the Kiritaki pens, because I knew that it was going to flow and come out easier. And when I'm away from home, it's like I just want it to work, and I just want to get my ideas out there and just create this, like, all these concepts. So this piece is actually a lot more ink wash and gray than I'm used to doing in my pages. I try to keep my pages pretty much like, solid black and white, and then if I'm using screen tones, then it's going to be screen tones. But so it's Kiritaki, and this is the Pentel, the popular Pentel brush pen. So this one consistently outputs like the most solid black you could get. But then you have to buy the ink for this to get that pen, and I wish they would sell it in like a refillable ink so that I could use their ink, because it's like the best ink. But they don't have that, so you have to buy the refills. You can't get a jar of it, at least not that I know of. If you can, if someone knows, let me know. Anyhow, now I'm really gonna let you guys go. So thanks as always for stopping by, and if you'd like to check out the previous video about this project and how it's coming along, or how the fruition of this project, or the initial idea, please check my channel. And you guys have a good afternoon, and I will see you guys around. Right?